Hello folks, welcome to this new session on AWS. In the last session, we basically discussed content delivery network using CloudFront, and we discussed how we can distribute content of your website so that a person who is accessing from a particular region, he or she is accessing our website from a particular region, so that request should go to the nearest edge locations that Amazon offers to reduce the latency. So that was all about that tutorial, and in this section, we'll be discussing another storage technique, that is Amazon EFS. So Amazon EFS, basically here EFS expands to Elastic File System. So as you can see, the name suggests this file system is elastic, so the storage space will expand or decrease according to your needs. So all the infrastructure behind this and all the configuration, that all will be handled by Amazon. So you will be having access to this storage scheme, which is called as elastic file system, wherein the storage will increase according to your storage needs. So it will increase or decrease automatically. So you don't have to worry about the space. And again, elastic file system, let's say you created an elastic file system, then you can mount this elastic file system to your instances, and we can basically configure this elastic system to be as a centralized file system for all our EC2 instances. So let's say if you have so let's consider this. Let's say this is our elastic file system, and again we have EC2 instances running. So these all EC2 instances can have access to this elastic file system. So this elastic file system will basically act as a centralized storage space. So this is also advantage of it. If you want to have a centralized storage space for all your EC2 instances, then this is one of the options. You can use elastic file system, and you can basically mount this elastic file system to your EC2 instance so that they can access this. So this was theoretical overview about this elastic file system. Now what we'll do is we'll have a small practical session on how to create an elastic file system. So first of all, we'll be creating an elastic file system, then we'll be creating an EC2 instance, and after that we will mount elastic file system onto our EC2 instance. So let's go to Amazon Services Console. So this is our AWS Services Console. Under storage, you will find EFS, Elastic File System. You can click it. So herein you can select create file system, or rather let us first launch our EC2 instance. Okay, right now we are not having any running instances. So make a note of this, your region, whatever region you are in. So your elastic file system and your EC2 instances should be in same region. So we are using US East 1. This is US East 1A, that is North Virginia. So click on running instances. So let me launch an instance. So let's choose this Amazon Linux AMI only, or we can simply go with our Ubuntu machine, which we were using till now. So we'll be going in with free tier. Rest all the details we will not be configuring. We'll just keep them as default, and we can call this instance as my EFS instance. Say next. Security groups will stay the same. We'll say review and launch it. Key-val pair, acknowledge it, launch instance. See, you all must be pretty clear with these steps till now. So it will take some time to create this instance. Right now the state is pending. Okay, so now our instance is up and running. We will simply take the public IP of our instance. Let's try to log into our instance. So this step is also we have covered in one of the previous tutorials. If you are not familiar how to connect to your instance, there are various ways actually. So this is one of the ways which we have discussed in one of our previous tutorials as well. If you are not familiar with it, I would request you to go ahead and watch that tutorial first. So let's open it. Say yes. Username is Ubuntu. Okay, cool. So now we are able to log into our instance. So let's minimize it for the time. So now we have our EC2 instance. Now the next step is we will create our EFS, that is Elastic File System, and then we will mount that EFS to our EC2 instance. So coming back to Elastic File System tab. Okay, we can close this. So Elastic File System, say create file system. VPC, right now we are using default VPC only. And so as you know that we created our EC2 instance in US East 1A, that is North Virginia. So you can select all of these availability zones. So Amazon EFS is highly available storage service. So even if one of it basically will create this in all the availability zones. And even if one of the zones goes down, you will still be able to access your EFS. So this is pretty high available service. So you can select all of these. Next step. And again, if you want to add something, a key val pair you want to give, you can say my EFS. So now here are two options for performance. One is general purpose, that is default. Next is max IO. So max IO basically, let's say if you have thousands of instances and all those instances are accessing your EFS, and for performance you can select max IO. It is written here also if you want to see. Max IO performance mode is optimized for applications with tens, hundreds of thousands of EC2 instances that are accessing the file system. So in our case, this is not applicable, so we will just be sticking with general purpose. So depending on your usage, depending on how many EC2 instances will be accessing this file system, you can go with a particular option. So right now we will just be sticking to general purpose default. Okay, so next step,